Hello and welcome to the Gothic Unicorn. This week I'm going to be making over this table and turning it into something more suitable for my needs. Now, I bought this table from a Dolls House show a couple of years ago. It was in a bargain basket because it was already damaged. It had once had additional leaves. You can see underneath where there would have been hinges for it to come up, and it was damaged on the one side and had already been repaired on one of the spindles at the bottom down there, I think it is. But I didn't want it for an immaculate scene. I wanted it for a witch scene that I was making, a witch scene that has morphed over time into Grandmama's attic, and the table stayed. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and tidy up this edge here, probably cut off this lovely rounded off end, and I'm going to give it a bit of a sand over and a new finish so that it looks like a very serviceable work table. I figure that Grandmama will have picked pieces of furniture for her workroom from around the house when they are at the end of their life. You know, waste not, want not and all that. So I don't want it to be perfect, but I want it to sort of look well loved and well used. So I have cut this side off. I left that side on because my plan is for this to stand against a wall, and then that piece will be at the front and that piece will be at the back, and it will look pretty good, I hope. I've also given it a rough sanding, just enough to take off most of the shine. I've not been so worried about the legs, but certainly with the top I've just gone fairly rough. I want it to look worn. It's not going to be nicely polished. That's not Grandmama's way, not in her workroom anyway. Next step, I'm going to start adding some colour. Now I'm going to use a nice dark brown paint. I'm going to start off applying some thin watered down layers to the top and see how that looks, but I may apply it neat to the legs just to get it done. So I have painted it with the dark brown paint, and now I need to distress it a bit because it's got to look older. Now, because I have used washes of paint, not just a thick layer of paint, hopefully you can see I've got marks that look like watermarks on the top. That is brilliant. That is the kind of effect that I was going for. I did not want it to look immaculate. I've also done a bit of sanding along the edge to take the paint back off again, because obviously that is the edge that I'm planning on having facing forward. That is the edge that is going to get worn. I may do the same on this edge here, but for now I'm going to start adding some wear marks, and I'm going to use this little I think it's a plastic lid off something, but I'm going to use it to make some rings, like the water rings that you get. And I've got some it's actually very pale grey paint, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some on the edge of there, and let me just test that off there. That's okay. I'm just going to put a mark on there. It's the same as when you get those rings from your cups and that sort of thing, but if you light marks tend to be where it's soaked into the wood, it tends to go light. And obviously if I put a darker wash over the top, it will dirty it up a bit. So if I can do another one with this same one, yeah, and get like that. Now I've also got a piece of a plastic drinking straw. I've got quite a stash of these because I use them for various things, and I'm going to do the same thing with that. I've put some paint on there. Let's take some off. I've got a bit of cardboard over there that I'm taking it off on, and then it looks like something small has been on there, and we'll do a few more. And as you can see, it starts to build up the age. I may get a darker colour, maybe a bit of black, and do some more. I have now dirtied up the top of my table. I've added rings of different sizes and different colours. I've also added some dirt and some sort of dusty grime that I've sort of smeared on. What I've also realised is that the base part has been re-glued onto the top at some point. So I am now really not in the least bit bothered that I've actually beaten this table up. You know, it wasn't up to much, it didn't cost me much, and I am quite happy that it's going to do the job that I want it to do. Now, I did toy with the idea of putting a little cloth on here. I thought about putting a square cloth, but sort of off centre, so that some of the wood was showing and some of the marks would show. But I'm sort of not loving that idea. I think as a work table, just leaving it plain wood is going to be my best idea. And obviously now, the way my mind works, I am running ahead and thinking about how I want to dress this table. So I'm going to carry on this video by showing you a couple of things that I'm likely to make to use to dress it. So with this being the witch's work table, I'm thinking in terms of it being used for preparing potion ingredients, maybe even mixing some of the potions. And I figure that she's going to need lots of pans and dishes, that sort of thing. And this is what I like to use to make some of my dishes. This is blister packaging. It's the kind of plastic packaging that you get medication in. This one had some indigestion tablets in, and these are quite good because they're actually fairly big and flat, so they make quite a nice little pan that you can use at a smaller scale for maybe a cake pan. You could use that for a smaller size cake pan in 1/12 scale. I'm not exactly sure what it'd be equivalent of, but I like turning them into metal pans. And then this one, this clear one, is from some allergy medication. This one I'll probably leave clear as glass, although I might put a bit of paint around the edge to make it look like it's either dirty or, you know, a bit more finished. And it is a bit rough around the edge there. I could do with tidying that up. But basically, you know, it's just to show you that you can get all kinds of medication packaging that you can use. You just need to make sure that it's clean, that there's no remnants of anything left behind. And when you come to take the medication out, instead of pushing it through from the plastic side, which is what generally people do, you need to actually cut round the foil, which I've picked up all the foil off here. It took a while. But you need to cut through the foil and then just sort of tap the medication out. It's a bit more fiddly, but it does leave you with a nice clean plastic packaging. Because I'm going for a metallic look on this dish, I'm not exactly sure what it's going to be yet. I've gone for a black undercoat. This is just my standard thing for doing metallics, mostly because most of my metallic pieces I want to look sort of at least slightly aged. And I find that the black then means I don't have to go over the top and age it later. It sort of does it in one go. Plus, most metallic paints need a good base coat. You can use a similar colour if you want a very pure colour, but I like old, I like black, and I'm using a metallic silver craft paint. Now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to do dry brushing. And I'm using a really cheap, horrible paintbrush, the sort that you normally just throw away. But I like this for this because it's quite hard and I get quite a rough effect. And all I do is I put the paint on by dabbing it. And as you can see, it doesn't get a good even coverage, because I don't want a good even coverage. I want it to be thin amounts, and I want to see some of that black through it, and that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to continue that over the entire piece. And here we have it. As you can see, I've gone all round with the silver paint. I haven't put so much inside because this will either be stacked with some others similarly. I like to stack them sort of at odd angles and glue them in place, or there'll be something put in it before it's put on the table finally. If I was going to do one that was going to be left as a nice clean empty one, I would put a bit more paint on the inside and make it look a bit more like new. But yeah, we've gone from that to that, and I quite like that effect. If you wanted it shinier, you could put some varnish, Mod Podge, that sort of thing on to give it a bit more of a sheen, but I like the worn look, and that looks like the old sort of metal baking ware, that sort of thing that you get. And here we have it, my little bargain table, transformed into something that looks like it will really fit into my witchy attic when I do it. It may have a bit more wear and tear added to it. I don't know. It depends exactly how I decide to dress it. And of course there's also my little dish, my first step towards dressing the table, made from something that normally gets thrown away, which I love doing. I love making things out of things that would normally get thrown away. So there we have it, another piece for my witchy attic.